In my last video, I talked about my thoughts on the Sonic Racing Crossworlds beta, where the game succeeded and where it needed improvement. If you haven't checked that video out yet, what are you doing? Go watch it, bozo! But now it's time to dive into some speculation, because there is still so much to talk about with the game. The most exciting part for me, and probably everybody else, is the character roster. There were 9 playable characters: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Shadow, Omega, Eggman, Cream, and Zaz. But there are 12 more characters we are aware of in the game who weren't playable. Big, Silver, Blaze, Sage, Metal Sonic, Zavok, Jet, Wave, Storm, Vector, Espio, and Charmy. And for some reason an Eggporn? I talked about the classes in the previous video, where vehicles and characters were categorized by speed, acceleration, handling, or power. But there was a 5th stat which no character or card was associated with: the boost stat. Taking the wealth of extra characters into account, as well as the Extreme Gears probably being the boost class vehicle, I think having a character boost class is likely. I could imagine Sage or Jet being within it. But of course, I do want to speculate characters who might be playable, and I do have a bit of a method here. There are 28 character slots in the beta, the 9 playable characters and the 12 confirmed characters. This makes 21 characters, leaving 7 characters we can speculate about. Every character can be grouped into a team of 3. Team Sonic with Sonic, Tails and Knuckles, Team Eggman with Eggman, Sage and Metal Sonic, Team Babylon with Jet, Wave and Storm, you get the gist. And when we look at the confirmed characters, there are obvious omissions here. Team Dark has Shadow and Omega, so we can expect to see Rouge. Zavok and Zaz will form a Zeti team, so another member of the Deadly Six is an easy guess, but the question is, who? I think it's going to be Xena. Xena is popular for reasons, but she would also balance out the male to female ratio of playable characters. On top of that, we can consider the character classes. Zaz has a high speed and acceleration, and Zavok's will most likely be power, leaving Xena to be either speed or handling. Zavok being a likely power type leaves no room for Zomom, who would definitely be a power type. And I can't imagine anyone working on the game thinks Krusty Old Man and Fall Out Boy's rejected member are the characters anybody wants to see again. We're now left with 5 characters, and we still have one team missing a character. Blaze and Silver are an easy duo to pair together, but who could the 3rd character possibly be? This is one I've deliberated on for a bit, and I think it could be either Tikal or Marine. Blaze is from a different dimension, and Silver is from a different time period, and both of these characters fit that categorization, with Tikal being from the past and Marine being from Blaze's dimension. But I really hope it is Marine if it did come down to these two. Not only because she has a friendship with Blaze, but also because she's been completely forgotten about since Sonic Rush Adventure, her debut game. And I think this actually strengthens the idea of Marine's return. Sonic Team have been reincorporating old lore and characters in both Sonic Frontiers and Shadow Generations. So a kart racing spin-off would be the perfect game to bring Marine back, but honestly I could be entirely wrong. If you have any suggestions for who could be in Blaze and Silver's group, be sure to drop it down in the comments, because there are sure to be so many characters I haven't even considered. Now you might be thinking, maybe the characters aren't being grouped into teams of 3, and they're just adding characters individually based on who would be a good fit. And honestly, you're right. This whole idea of team-based characters could be a wild goose chase. But with the characters presented, I feel there is a basis for this. The only character I can't think to group is the Eggporn, since Team Eggman already has 3 members, and the Eggporns couldn't possibly fit into any other team. But in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, you drive with X and drift with R1, but you can change your controls to be the same as Team Sonic Racing's, with R2 to drive and X to fire weapons. It's a really cool idea, but it got me thinking. This could have been called Legacy Controls. The Sonic and All-Stars racing games had the same control scheme after all, so why would it be specifically called Team Sonic Racing Controls? You can probably already see where I'm going with this. I think it's a hint that the team play mechanic from Team Sonic Racing could make a return. We saw the same thing in Crash Team Racing, where the subtitle Nitro Fueled as well as the kart customization hinted that the Crash Nitro kart tracks were going to be remade. And I think Crossworlds is taking a similar approach. Team Sonic Racing's main problem is that it was designed primarily as a multiplayer game. Much like Ratchet & Clank All for One, the game is kind of boring on your own, having to deal with the AI partners that have fewer brain cells than Ken Penders. But when you play with friends, it transforms into a different experience entirely, becoming a lot more enjoyable because of it. Every Sonic racing game has a campaign to follow, with drift challenges, score attacks, survival challenges, and many other little mini-games that supplement the single races and Grand Prix. Is it too much of a stretch to say that Crossworlds could include certain challenges that use the team play mechanic? It could also be presented as a separate game mode in online matchmaking, giving the online more modes to play and keep the variation stronger. Another problem with Team Sonic Racing was that it was only team racing. You couldn't just do single races by yourself. So having it as a separate game mode would alleviate that problem and make the game mode a lot more enjoyable because of it. We know the game is going to feature Sonic Prime characters, and I assume the characters might be skins, such as a 9 skin for Tails or a Rusty Rose skin for Amy. Whilst I'm not the biggest fan of Sonic Prime, I'm glad it's there for people who do enjoy it, plus this does open the floodgates a lot. It's a no-brainer that there's going to be movie skins for Sonic, Tails, Knuckles and Shadow, but it doesn't stop there. We could see a Jim Carrey Eggman skin, but more stylized to the look of the humans in the games. We could see Agent Stone, or Wade Whipple, or the King of Bowling, the deadbeat dad himself.
Pistol Pete Whipple!
If Jet and the Extreme Gears are returning, then the Riders outfits will probably return as well. Sonic could have the Gauntlet from Black Knight, or the Ring and Fire from Secret Rings. Knuckles could have the OVA cowboy hat. There are so many options. We could see Styx from Sonic Boom, or the absolute Chad himself, Mayburger's best employee, Dave the Intern. Is Intern a species in the Sonic Boom universe? But we can go even further. The official webpage for Crossworlds states the Crossworld mechanic transports characters from the Sonic and Sega universes. And you might be thinking, but you speculated about the characters and there aren't enough character slots left. And to you viewers with eyesight worse than a coconut, what I didn't bring attention to is the text at the bottom, saying there are many more characters to come. What this also means is that if the team mechanic does come back, then the egg pawn can be grouped into a team with Badniks because there will be enough characters for it. After all, it would be weird to see just the egg pawn robot and not the egg fighter or the egg robo. But I want to specifically pay attention to the characters from the Sonic and Sega universes part of the quote. This confirms that other Sega IPs will be present, much like the All-Stars racing games, and this was already shown in the beta. The Crossworld Lap Magma Planet is based on a Sega arcade game from 1988 called Galaxy Force. But again, the webpage specifically mentions Sega characters, and Sega have already announced that they are working on new games for Jet Set Radio, Shinobi, Golden Axe, and Streets of Rage, so we can safely expect Beat, Joe Musashi, Gilius, and Axel Stone. But I'd also say Amigo is a free bet since the latest Samba de Amigo game released in 2023, and II is obviously going to be in the game because Super Monkey Ball has gotten a lot of support from Sega recently. I'd also love to see Kiryu Kazuma and Goro Majima from the Like a Dragon series. Could you imagine racing through the streets of Kamurocho in an oversized slot car, dodging the machinery of Majima Construction and weaving through the Champion District? That would be so sick! Sonic Racing Crossworlds has its own social pages as well, but this only happens to games that get frequent updates, such as Sonic Forces Speed Battle, Sonic Rumble, and Sonic Speed Simulator. So this pretty much confirms the game will have frequent updates, and I can easily see this being similar to Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuels, where each season had a specific theme with related characters, customization options, and a new track. This is where the Sega Universes part could come into effect, with different seasons focusing on a different IP. The first season would probably be about the Sonic movies since they're highly successful, and it would drive early sales of Crossworlds before moving on to Jet Set Radio, Super Monkey Ball, and all the other usual Sega IPs we expect to see in the crossover games. The biggest question right now for me is Professor Victoria. I'd love to make a full video on her at some point before she is officially in a game. I have quite a few thoughts about her. The folks over at Sonic Team have been slowly but surely teasing her more and more, with her book appearing in Tails Tube, Gerald's notebook being recovered by her, and her quick cameo in the third Sonic movie. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't know what to expect from Professor Victoria in this game. She'll definitely play a big role in the next mainline game, but with how frequent the teasers have been, I feel confident that she'll appear in Crossworlds in some form. I highly doubt she'll be a playable character, but we might see a decal of her, or similar to the movie 3 tease, perhaps she'll be on a banner in the background of one of the stages. But if we see a track set in Space Colony Arc, I bet my entire Sonic comic collection that there'll be something there related to Tori. Whether she's far off in the distance trying to find the remains of Gerald's journal, or something as minuscule as a desk you drive past with her name on some paperwork. That is everything I currently speculate about Sonic Racing Crossworlds at the moment. Obviously the playable character speculation was going to be a focus of the video, but I also wanted to talk about the online updates and how they could work, and to what extent the Sega IP representation will go to. In the future, I want to make another video about mascot kart racers and how the competition between them has pushed the genre further with each console generation, and why Mario Kart is the weakest between Mario Crash and Sonic racing games, and I already know I'm gonna get hate commented so hard on that video. But before I do that, I do want to work on that video about Professor Victoria first, so if either of those videos sound interesting to you, be sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any speculation of the game that I didn't mention, or any thoughts on the ideas I presented, be sure to drop your own thoughts below. The moments before release when everyone has their own thoughts on a game before anything is really confirmed is always the most exciting for me, and I love chatting and reading with people about their wishes for a game. With all that being said, thank you for watching this video, and have a nice day.